In relationships, a paradox sometimes arises. The more you give, the more your partner seems to distance themselves. The balance seems to be disrupted the moment you become completely open. This doesn't always happen intentionally, but the changes that occur in the relationship have deeper roots than they appear to have at first glance. A well-known author and pioneer in the field of transformational thinking asserted that relationships are a mirror, reflecting our attitude toward ourselves. When a person gives themselves completely, without reservations or demands, they inadvertently project unconditional availability. This can lead to the partner losing interest. In the male psyche, desire is closely linked to challenge, mystery, and tension, which maintains attention, fuels curiosity, and awakens the impulse to conquer. Since ancient times, men have been raised to value what is difficult to obtain, what represents a goal. Paradoxically, when a man feels he has conquered everything without effort, his interest may wane. This is not anyone's fault. The psychology of desire and ways to connect with it through self-love are topics to which few people pay attention. Therefore, it is important to remember that the most important relationship in life is the relationship with oneself. When a person values themselves, they radiate a different energy that the partner feels. This does not require words or warnings, but activates something in the other person. When a man subconsciously senses that he is losing your attention or losing your admiration, his reaction is not always expressed in detachment. Often, a kind of instinctive mechanism awakens in his inner world, which prompts him to regain your favor, returning to himself that special place in your life that he thinks he is losing. However, this only happens when you regain your inner harmony, stop revolving around his universe, and refocus on your own. To bruise his ego, and it is important to clarify here, does not mean to hurt him at all. It is not about humiliating his dignity or using his feelings as a weapon of manipulation. On the contrary, it implies awakening in his consciousness, an awareness that your presence next to him is not a need, but a conscious choice. Your love is a precious gift, but it is not something taken for granted. You are a treasure, not an obligation, and if he wishes to remain with you, he must choose you every day, not out of habit, but out of sincere and genuine commitment. As Louise Hay said, people come into our lives to teach us the lessons we need for our healing. In this case, the lesson is very clear. Your presence cannot be given to someone who is not able to appreciate it. When you put yourself at the center of your life, your energy is transformed, your voice sounds different, your decisions become more balanced, and everything around you begins to react to these new standards. A man notices these changes, even if he does not express them in words. He feels it in your communication, in those pauses that you used to fill with excuses, and now you allow them to speak for themselves, in those boundaries that you did not set before, and now they become clear, firm, loving, but unbreakable. In this situation, one of the most important secrets of human relationships is revealed. True power lies not in demonstrative distancing for the purpose of punishment, but in the conscious choice of oneself as the main priority. When you prioritize taking care of your own energy balance, protecting your personal space and peace of mind, a man begins to understand that you are not among the easily accessible, and this inevitably increases your importance in his eyes. Instead of a simple desire for possession, a deep respect and admiration awakens in him. There is a powerful combination of attractiveness and some mystery, which makes him think daily about the question, "What can I do to match this woman?" And as soon as this question arises in his mind, the dynamics of the relationship changes dramatically. However, to achieve this effect, it is necessary to make a deep inner transformation, to stop experiencing the fear of losing this person. As long as you are possessed by the fear of losing a man, you will be inclined to settle for less than you really deserve. As Louise Hay wisely noted, the point is not to desperately fight for love, but to allow it to flow freely from the source of your inner completeness and self-sufficiency. When you are in harmony with yourself, you no longer need to impose feelings. The love that comes to you is born of freedom of choice, not of dire need. This is the key point. When a man senses that the risk of losing you is real, not because of your threats, but because he sees how brightly you shine, even without his presence. When he realizes that your life doesn't stop when he's gone, he genuinely starts to wonder if he's putting in enough effort to be a part of your life. That's when he begins to show more interest, give you genuine attention, and see your company as a valuable privilege rather than something he takes for granted. Suddenly, a man realizes that he's not dealing with a woman who is willing to settle for less. He sees a woman who carefully chooses, filters, and consciously decides who to give her energy to. And this dramatically changes the situation. Transformation into a confident and independent person is not just a game of playing it cool or memorizing detached behavior. It's a deep inner transformation that comes from realizing you are self-sufficient. As Louise Hay said, self-love is not selfishness, but the foundation piece of all our relationships. When this truth becomes your reality, when your energy radiates confidence, everything changes, both in you and in him. There's no need to tell him anything or explain your development. He feels it in every gesture, in every glance, in how you stop being constantly available. If your messages used to give him peace of mind, now your silence causes anxiety. He starts to wonder what has changed. Where did the woman who always said yes, was always there, and never doubted go? The most important thing is that you did this not for manipulation, but for yourself, because your soul has awakened, and you are no longer willing to love from emptiness. It is here that an unexpected turn occurs. A man who used to feel comfortable, confident, and even a little indifferent, begins to act completely differently. His pride, that vulnerable and often misunderstood part of his nature, suffers not from humiliation, but from the realization of loss, from understanding that what he took for granted is now slipping away. This puts him in an emotionally vulnerable position, which he rarely admits. Inside him, a search for answers begins, watching you, analyzing every detail of your behavior. He wonders if he has done enough to deserve your attention. And the most amazing thing is that in this process, he begins to change. He no longer moves by inertia, but acts consciously. He is guided not by habit, but by a sincere desire to reconnect with you. This whole transformation happens the moment a woman consciously refuses to obsessively try to show herself off, chase the object of her attention, or convince anyone of her worth. She abandons the futile efforts to please someone in order to feel loved and makes a choice in favor of her authenticity, inner freedom, turning into the very woman whose presence cannot be ignored, whose absence is felt as an irreparable loss, and whose energy becomes unavailable to random people. As Louise Hay wisely noted, our attitude towards ourselves is a direct signal to others, determining their attitude towards us. By setting boundaries dictated by self-love, protecting her inner peace as a priceless treasure, a woman teaches others, including a man, the rules of how to treat her. And then he finally notices the change, feels it in every cell of his being, realizes that there is a certain inner serenity in her, combined with an unyielding firmness. She is no longer willing to compromise her principles or deviate from her standards. This awakens in him not only attraction, but also deep respect. the very respect that comes from realizing that he is facing a completely different woman, a woman who knows her worth, capable of loving boundlessly, but not at the expense of her own personality. At this turning point, he begins to show what he had not offered before: real effort, sincere attention, genuine presence. After all, a man, when he truly values a woman, transforms for her, not under duress, but because her very existence inspires him to self-improvement. But there is one key condition here: emotional selectivity. This is not about artificial games of disappearing or manipulating feelings, but about a wise decision not to waste your energy on someone who does not appreciate it, not to be emotionally available to someone who does not reciprocate. It is important to demonstrate with your actions, not words, that you are happy on your own, and that if he wants to share his life with you, he will have to earn that right. It is inherent in human nature to strive for the scarce, for what eludes easy reach, for what challenges one's abilities. In the realm of feelings, this manifests itself in the image of a woman who stands confidently on her feet, self-sufficient, and does not need constant confirmation of her significance. When a woman stops making excuses, when she simply walks away with dignity, without unnecessary drama or reproaches, it causes inner turmoil in a man. He may not understand the reasons, but he keenly feels the loss of something important. This sense of loss becomes a stimulus to action, forcing him to strive for conquest, to analyze his mistakes. After all, nothing wounds a man's ego as much as not silence, but a woman's emotional detachment, the realization that her heart no longer belongs to him unconditionally. Even being physically present, smiling and maintaining a casual conversation, a woman can radiate a change in her energy that a man feels as emptiness, which he seeks to fill, as an absence that makes him move. This subtle but powerful difference destroys his usual logic. In this emotional chaos, a man begins to seek answers within himself, wondering if time has been lost, rethinking his decisions. What he considered unshakable turns into a shaky prospect. And it is in this uncertainty that genuine respect, admiration, and a desire for reunification are born. A man stops taking a woman for granted, as someone who will always be there. He sees in her a person who is able to leave, a person who chooses to stay, and who is worth conquering. And if he does not make an effort to deserve her, he realizes that he will lose her not because of revenge or hurt pride, but because she is no longer ready to settle for less. As Louise Hay wisely noted, love, attention, and devotion should not be begged for. Everything that is given out of need returns with suffering, and what is given out of abundance strengthens. And when a woman realizes this truth on a deep level, she stops waiting, chasing, and starts attracting. When a man begins to feel that his role in your life is no longer an unshakable truth, when his presence ceases to be a defining factor of your existence, a real revolution takes place in his inner world. This is not about minor changes, but about deep emotional upheavals that radically change his view of you and himself. At this critical moment, his mind, seeking to fill the resulting void, begins to actively construct various scenarios for the development of events. And these scenarios do not arise out of nowhere. They are imbued with fear, insecurity, and fears that he no longer meets your expectations, that someone else has appeared on the horizon, that you are simply tired of the relationship, or finally realized that you gave too much without receiving equal returns. This shaky maybe deprives him of confidence, because one of the strongest male fears is the fear of being insignificant, of ceasing to be a priority, of turning into one of the options. The realization that his name no longer evokes the same emotions the intuitive understanding that you have regained your emotional independence, and he no longer has the same power over you. All this deals a painful blow to his ego. As Louise Hay stated, when we stop needing emotional dependence on others in order to feel valuable, the universe rewards us with more sincere and harmonious relationships. This is exactly what is happening in this situation. When you put yourself back in the center of your universe, everything around you, including your partner, is forced to adapt to your new, stronger, and more conscious position. He feels it, even if he cannot express it in words. Something inside him shudders. He understands that you are no longer the woman who constantly waited, justified, and gave herself away completely. Now you are a woman confidently walking your path, reconciled with your loneliness and realizing that to feel complete, you do not need to be constantly chosen. It is in this transformation of yours that his personal transformation begins. The more he notices that you are not waiting for him, the stronger his fear of losing you forever becomes. And this happens not because of quarrels, conflicts, or a breakup, but because of your evolution. You simply go into an emotional space where he cannot follow you unless he decides to change himself. When you are really significant to a man, when a genuine connection is maintained between you, the fear of loss becomes a powerful stimulus for his transformation. He begins to analyze his actions, reflect on his mistakes, observe you with a sense of admiration mixed with regret. The realization that his presence in your life is not guaranteed, that your love is not limitless and requires reciprocity, becomes a revelation for him. Your dedication is valuable, but not unconditional. If you maintain your inner strength and do not give up at the first signs of his attention, you will see amazing changes. His attitude towards you will be transformed. He no longer communicates with you out of habit or a sense of comfort. Now his every action is filled with intention, effort, and a sincere desire to restore the connection. He understands that to return to your life, he will have to earn that right. However, it is here that many women make a fatal mistake, opening the door too soon. A small show of attention, a beautiful compliment, or an unexpected gesture makes them forget all past grievances, and they become available and open again. What seemed like a real reunion turns into a repetition of the old scenario. Seeing that he didn't have to make a special effort, the man returns to his former emotional passivity. That is why Louise Hay emphasized the importance of emotional stability and maintaining inner harmony, even when a partner begins to change. The most valuable thing you can do for yourself is to maintain your standards. Your energy is not a consolation prize, but a crown, and whoever wants to be with you must learn to treat it with respect and admiration. So, how should you behave when his attention turns to you again? By no means should you run away or show indifference, but you shouldn't rush into his arms blindly either. Listen to him carefully, undoubtedly observe his behavior, but not his words, but his actions. After all, it is well known that consistency of action is much more valuable than 1,000 promises. By adhering to this position, you become an attractive, magnetic figure, remaining emotionally inaccessible to those who have not yet proven their right to intimacy. You are present in his life, but unpredictably, your availability is not unconditional. This creates a fascinating contradiction in the male mind, a sense of confidence intertwined with mystery, availability combined with uncertainty. This emotional dance sustains his interest, engagement, and motivation. It is in this balance between what he thinks he already has and what he cannot yet fully possess that desire ignites. After all, attraction is born not from certainty, but from a space of the unknown, from a question that torments the soul. Does she still love me? And as long as you maintain this tension, without resorting to games and manipulation, but with a deep understanding of the situation, he will be emotionally attached to you. A man's heart is conquered not by the woman who immediately gives herself away completely, but by the one who appears and disappears with grace, leaves a trace behind, but does not become an obsessive shadow, the one who does not revolve around him, but remains true to her own orbit. A woman who values herself not for the love she receives, but for the love she gives herself. An appeal to the beautiful half of humanity, inspired by the wisdom of Liz Guylo, says, "Self-love is the most powerful magnet in the universe. When a woman gains inner confidence, becomes purposeful, restrained, and discerning in her relationships, a man who once finds himself next to her inevitably realizes the prospect of losing her. The only question is, will she allow it to happen? Become the woman that a man cannot fully figure out? This is not a game of inaccessibility, but a deep state of mind, an inner setting, expressed in a silent but unwavering decision. I am not going to adapt to anyone. I will remain true to myself, and those who wish to be with me will have to grow and develop to match." This is the spirit of the muse, a woman who does not give herself away out of fear of loneliness, but offers her love and attention only from her overflowing inner harmony. As Louise Hay said, "When we treat ourselves as a person worthy of the best, the world around us is forced to adapt to these expectations." Emotionally, this manifests itself in a powerful way. When you make it clear that you are not going to beg for love, but strive to inspire it, a man feels both intrigued and challenged. He is attracted not only to your external attractiveness, tenderness, or devotion, but also to emotional unpredictability, the ability to maintain inner resilience even in raging chaos, a combination of warmth and mystery that awakens in him a thirst for more, making him wonder about your true feelings and look for signs of attention that he used to give without the slightest effort. At the very moment when a man realizes that it will take much more effort to win your heart, a critical phase begins, a test of your emotional stability dictated by pride or insecurity. He may deliberately distance himself, expecting you to start chasing him. Perhaps his speech will include barbed remarks designed to arouse jealousy and test whether your feelings have faded. It is possible that he will try to awaken in you the former, anxious version of yourself that once obsessively sought his attention. It is at this moment that your true essence manifests itself. If you succumb to the provocation, fall into the trap, rush into the chase, start making excuses, asking and begging for attention, the game will start all over again. Power will once again be in his grasp, and he will see that you are still the same accessible woman as before. Then, he will lose all motivation to court you, because why fight for something that already belongs to him? However, if you manage to maintain your inner strength, not reacting with desperation and not trying to force a connection that must now come from him, if you simply continue to live your life with the same dignity, radiance, and independence, he will have no choice but to look at you in a new light. This is what disarms him completely. He is not used to such a reaction, to such strength, to a serenity that does not scream, beg, or threaten, but clearly indicates that he has lost his former unlimited access. It's not because you punished him, but because you have changed, and now your energy is only for those who can appreciate it. At this turning point, wounded pride becomes a powerful incentive for his transformation, acting not as a destructive wound, but rather as a revelation that pulls him out of a state of apathy. He turns his gaze back to you, admiring not only your external attractiveness or devotion, but also your inner strength, your unwavering spirit, which manifests even under the pressure of emotions. It is in you that he sees the woman who can awaken the best qualities in him, the one who cannot be subdued or trapped, the one who does not need a place in his life, but whom he desperately needs. And when he realizes that the only way to win you is through a relentless struggle, daily efforts aimed at giving you the best of himself, his feelings grow from fleeting passion into something more, into commitment, respect, and a deep emotional connection. Here we come to the culmination. Now you become the master of your destiny. After all, when he returns transformed, full of motivation and desire to regain what he has lost, you have a choice: to accept him or reject him, to allow him to enter your life, but on new terms, under new rules of the game, where you are no longer the woman who is content with little, but the one who makes a conscious choice. And if you decide to let him back in, it must come from a new state, from the depths of your being, from that part of you that has learned to love yourself so much that you are no longer willing to sacrifice your emotional well-being for the illusion of being with someone. Liz Gayler wisely noted, "Never compromise your inner peace for fear of loneliness. Loneliness is not the problem. The problem is the lack of self-love." So if a man wants to maintain a union, he needs to realize a fundamental truth. Your presence in his life is not a given, not an automatic function available on demand. Your favor is not a routine, but a daily conscious choice. Being with you is not an acquired right, but a privilege that must be earned through consistency, development, and sincere aspiration. A woman who can ignite a genuine desire in a man is not one who blindly pleases, not one who dissolves into his needs, not one who lives in fear of losing him. She is a woman who serves as a mirror for him, reflecting his greatness, but also not hiding his weaknesses. She inspires him to grow, to strive to match her level. With her mere presence, she declares, "I did not come to fill your emptiness. I came to share my self-sufficiency with you." And when a man grasps this truth, when it penetrates his very being, an internal transformation occurs. Old ideas crumble, and something new arises in their place. A genuine connection based not on dependence, but on deep respect, not on control, but on admiration, not on need, but on mutual free choice. It all starts from the moment when you, my dear, decide to hurt his pride. But you do it not in a fit of anger, but with grace and dignity. Not to punish him, but to elevate him. Not to push him away, but so that if he decides to return, he does so as a transformed person, ready to deserve a woman like you. Such a woman is not forgotten. Not because she is intrusive, not because she seeks to attract attention, but because she leaves an indelible emotional imprint that goes far beyond the physical, superficial, and fleeting. The true secret of lasting relationships lies not in trying to hold on to a partner at any cost, or in inventing cunning strategies to prevent him from leaving. The secret is to awaken in him such a strong and sincere desire to be with you that he does not even think about breaking up. Liz Gay wisely noted that true love grows not out of a sense of urgent necessity, but out of a sense of freedom and completeness. That state of inner harmony is precisely what gives rise to the woman a man fears losing and will never forget. However, to achieve this, a key decision must be made. Will you continue to be predictable, adjusting your behavior to meet the expectations of others, trying to please them, and deluding yourself into thinking that unlimited devotion will guarantee his eternal love? Or will you choose the path of transformation into that magnetic and unforgettable woman who inspires a man to do his best, not by force, but by the will of his heart? The choice is yours. When you realize that love cannot be bought at the price of sacrifice, and you begin to value yourself as a priceless gift, a magical transformation will occur. Your partner will change, the dynamics of your relationship will change, and most importantly, you will change. It is important to remember that male pride is not just a manifestation of vanity, but a deeply rooted psychological mechanism that determines his behavior, his expression of love, and his ways of overcoming difficulties. This mechanism turns off when a man feels completely safe and secure. But as soon as he loses these guarantees, as soon as he notices that you are no longer orbiting him like a planet around the sun, a spark ignites in his soul, awakening the instinct of a conqueror, the desire to regain what he has lost, the impulse not to lose what he is no longer sure of. This is not about insidious games or artificially stirring up passions. It is about a deep understanding of the laws of the human soul, and most importantly, about boundless respect for one's own personality. There is no need to disappear from sight or stage heart-wrenching scenes. Sometimes, eloquent silence, demonstrative emotional detachment mean much more than a stream of words. The mere fact that you cease to be a source of unconditional attention, that your approval is no longer a given, that your answers are not so easy to obtain, forces a person to turn to their inner world. In the resulting silence, he begins to ask himself questions. What has he lost? What mistakes has he made? What does he need to change in order to regain your favor? Yes, that's right. When you understand this dynamic, when it becomes a part of you, when you apply it out of love for yourself and not out of fear, you become truly unforgettable. You stop begging humbly, pursuing obsessively, and turn into a woman who cannot be replaced, a woman who does not obey but chooses, a woman who inspires. And perhaps this is the most important truth to remember. You don't need to convince anyone to love you, respect you, or stay with you. True love does not require supplication or coercion. It is born out of a sincere desire to be together, out of a genuine fear of losing what cannot be found in anyone else. And if the realization of your worth comes only at the moment of your departure, perhaps that person was simply not ready for you to be around. However, it is worth remembering that you yourself shape this perception. The way you present yourself, the way you express your feelings, the way you value yourself, directly affects the way you are seen. When femininity reaches its peak, combining fragility and mystery, accessibility and elusiveness, it leaves an indelible mark on a man's heart, one that cannot be erased. If you have always been there, without demanding conquest, perhaps he never appreciated the priceless treasure that was given to him. But if one day your essence changes, if your detachment becomes more noticeable than your usual presence, then he will feel a gaping emptiness that will force him to act. And in this emptiness, a flame of desire will ignite, not just physical attraction, but a deep emotional need, strong and lasting. And now comes the decisive moment, the main question, the answer to which only you can give. Are you ready to give up the role of an undervalued woman? Are you ready to become someone who will never again be treated as a backup option? After all, it's not just about him, not just about the relationship, but about yourselves, about your self-perception, about what you are willing to allow, about the standards you set for yourself. The more you value yourself, the higher the world around you values you. Liz Wise once aptly noted, "The way others treat you is a reflection of what you allow them to do." So what are you teaching them today? Are you ready to change this lesson? If everything above has touched the strings of your soul, if something has shifted inside you, if you have looked at the situation from a different angle, share your thoughts in the comments. I'm interested in hearing your story, whether you've experienced similar dynamics, whether you've felt the internal changes that are now beginning to occur in you. Your experience may be the very spark that helps another woman awaken and realize her worth. If the material presented resonated with you, if it brought a spark of understanding, energized you, or offered a fresh perspective on your interpersonal connections, please show your appreciation by giving this video a like. This simple gesture of support serves as an incentive for me to continue creating content that comes from the heart, content that can touch the depths of your mind and soul. And of course, if you're not already part of our community of like-minded individuals, join us by subscribing and turning on notifications, because here we go beyond trivial conversations about love. We delve into the exploration of your personality, into the processes of healing and recovery, into finding ways to revive the woman you always were, but may have temporarily forgotten your greatness. Remember this as an axiom. The moment you realize your true value, the world around you will transform, and the attitude towards you will change dramatically. No man will ever dare to look at you with the same dismissive gaze again.